Hello everybody, my name is Happy and I'd like to welcome you all to my history reaction channel. Today we're back for some more musical history, and today our topic is going to be George Washington versus William Wallace by Epic Rap Battles of History. This one should be kind of interesting. We have two men who are famous for fighting for independence from England, one in the 13th century, the other in the 18th century. Should be a fun contest. As always, I will include a link to the original video in the description down below. If you enjoyed this video, head over to Epic Rap Battles, show them a little love and support for the effort that they put into this. Alright, I don't know what to expect other than I expect it'll be pretty fun. Yeah, don't know what to say, so let's just get into it. Here we go.
George Washington.
All right. Going straight out of Braveheart, which is a great movie. I love the movie, but it is about as historically accurate as Disney's Pocahontas, which is to say, not at all. Wallace almost certainly wouldn't have had a kilt. He wouldn't have had the blue dye. So much wrong with that movie. Still a good movie though.
There's a difference between you and me, Willie. I fought till I was actually free, Willie. I got my face on a quarter, you got drawn and quartered. Tortured on the orders of a king, really? How's a hit beef I do named Wallace? You hot dog and cut off your beef rings. I'm money like a national bank. Ain't nobody more sweet than Big G. Stone face with a grill and sheep king. A Mel Gibson movie is your legacy. I gotta stay to the day in a DC. Roll up in a boat, stroll, sleep and cut your throat, stroll. I watch the blood flow. Now who's got that red coat?
All right. For starters, Washington is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. This could be a great Halloween video. It's the inclusion of his infamous false teeth, I think, that do it. But yeah, we're going to do this step by step because there's a lot of good lyrics to break down in this one. I can see that already. This is going to be probably another long one.
There's a difference between you and me, Willie. I fought till I was actually free, Willie.
So there's a difference between you and me, Willie. I fought until I was actually free, Willie. First of all, I love how he keeps isolating Willie. One of the distinctions between Washington and William Wallace would be that the two men did fight for independence from Britain. Washington succeeded, Wallace did not. But there's also the obvious wordplay there for Free Willy the movie. I got my face on a quarter. Let's pick up.
Got my face on a quarter. You got drawn and quartered.
Yeah, so Washington is on the face of both the quarter and the dollar bill. And William Wallace was drawn and quartered, which was a horrible thing. I believe they would hang you first. Then they would draw you, hook you up to ropes, pull your limbs out. They'd castrate, they'd disembowel, typically anyway, and then cut off or pull off the limbs. Again, depends a little bit on time frame and place, but there's some variations, but the idea is the same. And then the four limbs would be typically buried in different places. All of it is intended to humiliate and humiliate the victim. It's a way of sending a message to people who followed somebody like Wallace. Horrifying stuff. Terrible torture. Tortured on the orders of a king.
Tortured on the orders of a king, really? How's a hit beef I do named Wallace?
So tortured on the orders of a king? Really? Yeah, these guys are freedom fighters. They're fighting for independence from the king. So Washington making a diss on him about that. Really? You lost to a king? Really? And not only that, but a king named Longshanks, which is kind of a silly name. But that was the nickname of King Edward at the time, Edward Longshanks. It had to do with his height, his long legs, among other things. I think that was the primary source of the name anyway. But British royalty is, again, not one of my stronger points. You hot dog.
You hot dog didn't cut off your beef rings. I'm money like a national
referred to as castration.
bank. Ain't nobody.
So I'm money like a national bank. Not only is he on the quarter and the dollar, but thanks to Hamilton, he's the guy who authorizes our first national bank.
More street than Big G. Stone face with a grill and sheep king.
Let me go back here a second.
I'm money like a national bank. Ain't nobody more street than Big G.
Ain't nobody more street than Big G. I think he's talking about street cred, but I think he's also making a reference to the fact that many streets throughout the United States are named after Washington Street. I'm fairly sure that's what he's talking about there. Stone face with the grill of sheep teeth. Stone face would be a reference to Mount Rushmore, where he got the famous statue. Sheep teeth is a reference to his false teeth. They were actually made up of a variety of substances, including human teeth, animal teeth. You'll sometimes hear wooden teeth. I think he had some temporary teeth that were wooden, but his main set of dentures were actual ivory from humans or animals.
Stone face with a grill and sheep king. A Mel Gibson movie is your legacy. I gotta stay in a day in a DC.
Yeah, okay, so
Face with a grill and sheep king. A Mel Gibson movie is your legacy.
a Mel Gibson movie is your legacy. That's where I think a lot of people internationally, outside of Scotland and England, have probably heard of William Wallace. It brought him back to a center point for many people. If you had asked the average American who William Wallace was before Braveheart came out, most probably would have no idea. And I suspect that's true in a lot of countries outside of those directly impacted by this. But since the movie came out, William Wallace is well known around the world. So yeah, a Mel Gibson movie is your legacy. It's kind of a fair diss, at least outside of your immediate sphere of influence.
I gotta stay in a day in a DC.
Yeah, I got a state and a day in a DC. Yeah. The state of Washington, President's Day, and Washington, D.C. And we already mentioned there's a lot of streets named after him, among other things. He's pretty prolific everywhere.
Whoa, roll up in a boat, stroll, sleep and cut your throat, stroll.
That sounds like a crossing of the Delaware and the ambush of the Hessians, I'm guessing.
Watch the blood flow. Now who's got that red coat? Look at
That's a reference to the Redcoats. I have a feeling that Cut the Throat is also a reference to the movie Braveheart, where his girlfriend gets her throat cut. But that's just conjecture. I don't know if that's intended or not. And I'm sure I've missed a dozen references already. This one seems to be very packed. And some of it's slang that's going to go right over my old head. So feel free to add in the comments the things that I know I missed. Now, let's see if Wallace can respond.
Yeah, in your little blousey outfit, looking like a stiffer white dick than your monument. I'll knock you the fuck out, mate. You died owning slaves, and I'd set 'em in free. That's the Highland way. This parapet cut and beat me in a foot race. I'm emasculated, eviscerated, and man jumped off and they put it on a plate. I still find time to bust the garlic rhyme and rip your Yankee Doodle arse in the mic. I'll knock your face off your moolah. I'm a goobra, hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. Father, but no children. Cross the Delaware, but your soldiers can't swim. That's Washington, such a shite addition. The fucking British Army didn't even want him. I'm Wallace, I'm flawless. Stay hid in your office or suffer great losses. I pop my kill, strap my sword and my hilt, step on the battlefield, and I'm ready to kill. And roll your politicians straight down to hell. The only Washington that trusts is Denzel. Is that the best you?
All right. I'm already leaning heavily towards Washington winning this one. Not impressed overall by Wallace's comeback or his rhymes or rhythm. Feels a little bit off. But there's more to come, so he might make a comeback. I've seen it happen before.
Look at you in your little blousey outfit.
So he's criticizing Washington's outfit, but that would have been standard for the day for his position in society. So, kind of a weak attack, honestly.
Looking like a stiffer white dick than your monument.
That one's a little better, but like I said, the rhythm and everything just doesn't feel right. But that's a reference to the Washington Monument. It is often considered by many people to be a phallic symbol. For obvious reasons, it kind of is. In any case, that's a great attack on Washington. It's not really Washington's fault, but yeah, it's one that works.
Get the fuck out, mate! You died owning slaves, and I'd set men free!
So that's a fair attack. Washington did die owning slaves when both men were supposedly fighting for freedom and independence. Yet Washington he was a slave owner. He did own slaves. Now, the slaves that he owned, a lot of those belonged to his wife Martha, so he could not free them if he wanted to. She would have had to have done it, but yeah, that's a fair attack. Scot-free. I'm sure that's a reference to something specific that I'm probably missing. Let's continue.
That's the Highland way. This parapet couldn't beat me in a
This is going way too fast.
owning slaves, and I'd set men free! That's the Highland way. This parapet couldn't beat me in a foot race!
This powdered prick couldn't beat me in a foot race. Again, he's dissing Washington on his powdered wig and his fluffy dress, the frills and all that. He's coming back to that. That's a -1 point for him, returning to the same attack he's already made.
Emasculated, eviscerated, and man jumped off and they put it on a plate!
Yeah, so he was disemboweled, he was beheaded, he was eviscerated, he was castrated. All of that is true.
Don't fight time to bust the grind!
Now, that one I might take some exception with, because I'm not sure that William Wallace would have spoken a lot of Gaelic, at least not frequently. During this period, early Scots, possibly Norman French, might have been more likely languages for him to be speaking than traditional Gaelic languages. Not saying he wouldn't have spoken them, but I suspect, and I could be wrong on this, so if somebody knows for sure, please let me know in the comment. But I suspect his main languages would have been early Scots and Norman French.
I'd rip your Yankee Doodle arse on the mic!
I'd rip your Yankee Doodle arse on the mic. That's a reference. Yankee Doodle is a term of disparagement that was used for the colonials by the British, which they kind of adopted as a badge of pride. They just flipped it around on the British. Yeah, sure, we'll take that. Not a problem.
Knock your face off your moolah!
Oh, knock your face off your moolah. That is a reference again to Washington's face being on the money, moolah being slang for money. For those of you who don't have English as a primary language. That is Gaelic for the Scottish slogan. It's like, geez, I used to know that one. It's like, is it like Scotland Forever or something like that? Something to that effect anyway, or Freedom for Scotland, something, it's a patriotic slogan. But I don't remember exactly what the literal translation is.
Founding father, but no children!
Founding father, but no children. Yeah, Washington is often called one of the founding fathers of the United States. And if people were going to narrow it down to a founding father, it would be George Washington, absolutely. But yeah, he had no biological children of his own. He did have some stepchildren from Martha Washington's first marriage. And he did help raise some other children, including some grandkids. He even had a role in raising one of, I believe, Lafayette's children as well, for a while. In fact, I think it was George Washington Lafayette. Anyway.
Cross the Delaware, but your soldiers can't swim. That's what.
You cross through Delaware, but your soldiers can't swim. I'm really not sure what that's a reference to. I mean, obviously crossing the Delaware, but there's got to be a meaning or a specific incident he's thinking about where soldiers can't swim. But if there is, it's not coming to mind.
Such a shite tactician. The fuck. But no children. Cross the Delaware, but your soldiers can't swim. That's Washington. Such a shite tactician.
Yeah, shite tactician. Washington, yeah, he was not the best tactician at all. He was better with overall strategy, even though even there I wouldn't call him brilliant. Much better with overall strategy than tactics. So a lot of his battles go pretty poorly, not even just during the American Revolution. Even before that, when you go back to the 7 Years' War, which he helped start by his command in Canada. So yeah, that's a fair criticism of Washington. What he was, and we said this before, was a great leader of men. He was great for morale. He did inspire people. So he was a good figurehead to have for the army, but he was much better when he let other men make the plans, especially on the tactical level. And he knew that, and one of his marks of genius is the fact that he did listen to his advisors and his underlings and give them the ability to make decisions that influence the course of the war. So absolutely accurate about Washington. He was also good at organizing spy rings and such, by the way. All right. That's fair. I wouldn't say the British Army didn't want him, but he wanted to be a much higher ranked officer within the British Army, but couldn't because he didn't have the right heritage. High officer rank was typically reserved for British aristocrats. Washington was a colonial.
Wallace, I'm flawless. Stay hidden in your office, I suffer great losses. I pop my kill, strap my sword and my hilt, step on the battlefield, and I'm ready to kill. Such a shite tactician. The fucking British Army didn't even want him. I'm Wallace, I'm flawless. Stay hidden in your office, I suffer great losses. I pop my kill, strap my.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did not wear a kilt. Kilts came a little later in history. Again, if you're from Scotland or anywhere in that area, or if you just know differently, let me know. But I'm pretty sure kilts were not, at least not as big a thing then as they become later in history. Wallace probably would not have been wearing one. So Wallace is trying to claim that he is a frontline general, so to speak, leading his men in battle while Washington is leading from the rear, typically back in an office. And to some extent, that's true. Washington did travel with the army. He did suffer with them. The winter at Valley Forge would be a perfect example of that. But he would not have been one of those frontline generals at all. I don't know that he ever did that. He may have, but if so, I can't think of a specific example. He was much more of what a general should be, which is somebody who stays out of the active fighting and manages the battle. You don't want your general tied up in the fighting because then he can't general. At that point, he's just another soldier, right?
You politicians straight down to hell. The only Washington that trusts is Denzel.
All right. Not a great diss, but that's the only Washington I trust is Denzel. That's probably a diss at not only Washington himself, but his reputation for being honest. The only one I trust is Denzel, which would be Denzel Washington, clearly. All right, let's see what Washington does for a comeback. Already it's looking spectacular. Here we go.
Is that the best you got for me? I chop down an MC like a cherry tree. See power, that's what the meaning of my flag is. Donations famous for golf and haggis. I'm fabulous, from my head to my shoe buckle. Step to me or catch a knee to the boot knuckle. Hit the NATO when I'll drive. I'm dressed like a pimp, best moves at the bar. McGavin, McLivin, McSchoolyard. Cock black, more Scott than Hadrian's wild. I don't give a shit, but you're fun.
Okay. Washington's really, really doing good. And it's not because I'm an American and a patriot, by the way. I think he got much better rhythm, much better rhymes, and his attacks are much more on point. But Wallace still has another round, so we'll see how it goes.
Is that the best you got for me? I chop down an MC like a cherry tree.
I chop down an MC like a cherry tree. That's a reference to the famous fable of George Washington chopping down a cherry tree, and when confronted by his father, said, "I cannot tell a lie. I did it." that is not a real story, that is made up, but it's part of the Washington mythology. Washington is absolutely cannot tell a lie. He's super reliable, super trustworthy. And to a large degree, that does seem to actually be the case. He had quite the reputation for integrity and so on. But that particular story is pure bunk. But it's still well regarded as a popular myth about Washington.
Power, that's what the meaning of my flag is. Our nation's famous for golf and hacking.
Okay, that's a low blow. I don't think it's fair to attack Scotland just because Wallace is from there. But he's saying our flag represents power. What is Scotland famous for? Golf and haggis. I mean, golf, what did originate in Scotland, I believe. I mean, golf as we know it, yes. I don't know if there was an antecedent to golf that might have originated elsewhere or independently. But golf as we know it, Scottish. And haggis, of course, being a stereotypical Scottish dish.
Fabulous, from my head to my shoe buckle. Step to me or catch a knee to the moose knuckle.
Step on me, catch a knee to your moose knuckle. Moose knuckle is a reference to, just say if a man wears really tight tights and you can notice a notable bulge, that is the moose knuckle, you definitely don't want a knee there. And that's why in the video, Wallace immediately proceeds to cover his crotch.
Cause I know you don't wear no drawers. I'm dressed like a pimp best.
You don't wear no drawers is a twist on the slang drawers or pants. You'll often, especially in the South, sometimes you'll hear it pronounced drawers. So that was a good reference through slang.
Shoe buckle, step to me or catch a knee to the moose knuckle. Cause I know you don't wear no drawers. I'm dressed like a pimp best moves at the bar.
Dressed like a pimp, best moved at the ball. Now, Washington's just owning his dress, which is a good move for him because Wallace has attacked it at least twice so far. So by owning it, he takes that weapon away. That's a good move for anybody when you're engaged in a debate or politics or a rap battle. Embrace it. Just like the Americans did Yankee Doodle. It was intended to be an insult. Don't let it be. Embrace it. That takes the power from it. And he says here, best moved at the ball. Washington was known to love dancing, and he was said by many sources to be very good at it. He was a well-known dancer. So he probably did have the best moves at the ball, or at least he had a right to make that claim. McCavin, McGivin, or whatever he just said. McSchool, y'all. That's got to be like a diss at the common trope of Scottish names starting with some variation of Muck or Mac, McDonald's, or so on and so forth. McKendrick, Scrooge, McDuck. But McSchool, you all, playing for, teach you a lesson. Continuing. Wear no draws, like I said earlier. I kind of emphasized the draws, but that's a reference to the kilt and nothing underneath it. But again, I don't think that's, I think it's anachronistic to say that Wallace would have worn a kilt in the first place.
Dress like a pimp, best moves at the bar. McGavin, McLivin, McSchool, Cock block more Scots than Hadrian's Wall.
Cock block more Scots than Hadrian's Wall. So Hadrian's Wall was constructed along the border between England and Scotland by the Roman Hadrian, specifically to keep the Scots out of the Roman possessions in Britain. The whole purpose of it was to block the Scots. So yeah.
I don't give a shite about your fancy clothes. You ripped all those on a slave black folk. Grew weed and you made hemp grow. But if you think I'll beat me, you must be having a smoke. Oh, Joe, don't tee off with me, lad. If you held my balls, you couldn't be my caddy. My style's ice cold, yours is old as Chevy. You're the father of your country, but I'm your daddy.
Ooh, okay, good. Final round for Wallace. Finally, Wallace. Finally, you did it. I'm still going with Washington, I think. But if Wallace had had that energy, that rhythm, that rhyming, and that level of attack throughout the whole video, he easily could have been a contender. He just started out, at least in my opinion, pretty weak. But he finished strong. So I still want to give it to Washington for this video, but Wallace had a pretty good ending. I'll give him the ending. He really did come good on the ending.
I don't give a shit, but your fence are closed.
The problem with that, Wallace, is that you've already attacked it anti-close multiple times, so you really can't say that, right? Can you? You've attacked it multiple times. So, bad response there. But I still like this ending.
You ripped all those out of slave black folks.
Now that was a great twist. Ripped all those out of slave black. Yeah. The Southern economy was heavily based on slave economics, and a lot of what they produced down there, including the cotton, would have come from slave labor. A lot of the processing, including some of the weaving and so on, also would have been through slave labor, at least in the South. Through weed, then you made hemp rope. Yeah, some of our founding fathers were hemp farmers, and Washington would have been one of them. And yes, that hemp. Although, at the time, it was primarily used to make rope, among other things. Hemp rope was very popular, and it was a mainstay of the shipping industry, boats.
Weed and you made hemp rope, but if you think I'll beat me, you must be having a smoke.
So that's a reference to hemp, marijuana, cannabis.
Oh, Joe, don't tee off with me, lad. If you held my balls, you couldn't be my cadet.
So, don't tee off with me, laddie, is a golf reference. Don't start something you can't finish. You ain't gonna win. But if you think you'll be...
You must be having a smoke. Oh, Joe, don't tee off with me, lad. If you held my balls, you couldn't be my cadet.
So, yeah, that's a pretty great attack. A lot of golf references there with balls and caddy. But there's obviously another reference in there as well, which he subtly, not so subtly, reveals with his actions.
My style's ice cold, yours as old as Chevy. You're the father of your country, but I'm your daddy.
You're the father of your country, but I'm your daddy. Wallace does have the right to claim toughness. I think he's fair on that. But that's not necessarily a good thing if you're the leader of your forces. You need to be leading them, not charging in front of them. But I do like Wallace's finish. But I'm going with Washington. Going with Washington. That was a fun one, and I'm sure I missed several references there. I'm sure of it. I feel like every word in this one probably had multiple meanings. So if you caught things that I didn't, and I know you did, please consider putting them down in the comments. I always like to see what I missed, especially things that are more recent culture and rap related, and modern slang related. I'm old enough that a lot of that goes zing right over my head. I catch a few here and there, but not often. So if you guys caught more, please let me know. And if you happen to know for sure one way or the other about whether Wallace would have sported a kilt, I'd love to hear it. To my understanding, he probably would not have. If they'd been around at the time, they probably wouldn't have been something he'd be wearing into battle. He would have been wearing armor, because he's not an idiot. That's my opinion anyway. Anyway, thank you for joining me. See you all next time. Bye-bye.